Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today I want to talk about harvest crafting. So how to make those insane mirror tier items for not even that much currency. So today, this is not like a crafting stream in the terms of, hey, this is my item, this is what we're gonna do today, because the process will take several hours or days even, for my example, if I just like not buying seeds and just farming everything by myself. So it is a long-term progress, but today I want to do like some theory crafting, right? To show you guys how easy it actually is to, I would say, abuse harvest crafting to make mirror tier items, okay? So the thing is, what is a mirror tier item? Usually, I would say a mirror tier item is an item that is worth more than a mirror, where people say, you know what, your boots are perfect, I want to mirror those, and I'll pay you the fee that you request, right? So if I have mirror tier boots, I say like, hey, it took me like 1,000 exalts to make, I want to have like a mirror fee of like 50 exalts. So people can come to me, mirror my boots, pay another 50 exalts, so they are allowed to make a copy, right? But this is just like more of a high-end, super insane things. And for me personally, I've never been able to craft a mirror tier item in 12 leagues or what I'm playing right now. The best item that I crafted yet was these boots here. They have 6 times Tier 1 with an Abyss socket, Tailwind, Elusive, Movement Speed, Life, Tier 1 Res, everything perfectly rolled. This is what I would consider a mirror tier item. But in this league, it's not, okay? So if I refer to mirror tier item, it's actually a reference to the past, basically, or after this league, if that one doesn't go core. Which is basically, if your boots are that insane that nobody else has them or can craft them, or they're fine to pay that, right? So mirror tier items in Harvest League do actually not exist. The only exception is like super insane rare items that are not able to get done with harvest crafting. For example, an insane physical damage weapon, right? So a weapon is and was always the form of the best idea to use as a mirror on if you have one, if you want to. The reason for that is it has multiple stats of the same tier, right? So if you could just go over that real quick. With Harvest, we could do like remove at physical modifier, right? So we could permanently reroll a physical modifier. One physical modifier, right? So, and if you are technically saying, okay, you want to have the best possible weapon that has like tier 1% fizz, right? That's like merciless with like 170 to, let's say, merciless, right? Then you have T1 flat fizz, that is the flaring modifier, and then you have the tier 1 hybrid, which is the dictator's modifier. So this one here, the merciless, I would say about 3 to 5k alterations to spam to hit it once. Flaring is not that big. I don't know, like flaring is the most common one out of these, so I would say about 500 or so. It's not too hard to hit a flaring, maybe 1k. Let's say 1k. And the dictator's mod, which is the hybrid modifier, I would say is also about 3 to 5k. So just think about how high is the chance that you hit merciless with the dictators together. Almost impossible, right? So the problem is if you now say, okay, like my boots, okay, I don't have tier 1 movement speed and I want to have tier 1 movement speed, so I just permanently reroll, like remove a speed modifier at the speed modifier. The movement speed is the only speed modifier basically on my boots, if we just say it's movement speed, right? And here I would always, let's say I am super hyper lucky, and I got these two on my weapon, and I actually want to have the tier 1 flaring on top of it. How do I do that, right? So you would basically just like augment a fizz modifier and hope for it, right? But if you hit like tier 8, for example, and you have to do like remove fizz, add fizz, this single remove add fizz could get rid of your your merciless roll, for example. So there is no safe way of creating a weapon. So a weapon is definitely more than mirror tier, basically. Some of the weapons that exist right now in the league with like 5 times tier 1, and I mean, I know how these guys did that, but there's like several, I don't know, like you don't want to deal with that. It's a team that is doing that weapon. They are all farming for the same, basically, just a team that finishes that single weapon, right? So, but we don't want to talk about this one. It's just saying I'm just want to explain mirror tier item. What is it in Harvest League? And I think there's only like weapons or maybe one chest that is worth to mirror that is not abusable with the Harvest Craft. So today we're gonna recreate some like these boots, for example. And even though these boots, I would say they are not really craftable in previous leagues, right? Because yeah, let's talk about the boots a little bit later. Then we're going to talk about my current project, which is the chest, for example, the ring that I'm crafting right now. It's just about the progress. How do you start that? What does it take when you say, okay, I'm playing, and we're going to do this with this character because I have the examples over here, and this will fit to everything else as well, right? So I would say we start with the basics, and let's just recreate these boots. What would be the start to make these boots possible, right? So the most important thing here are two websites they can use. One is the Craft of Exile and one is the PoE database, but I personally prefer the Craft of Exile because it's just like, yeah, easier to follow and stuff, right? So first of all, you need to find a good base of boots. Like, I personally think the two-tone boots, they come with an implicit with fire, cold resistance, lightning, whatever, you know. So I think those make the most sense, and I think they are the best, basically. I could go with some Titan Greaves or something like that, but they only give armor, and these won't give me resistance on top of that. It's kind of similar to the Astral Plate. It's all resistance is always great to have. So, and then I say, okay, what is my character based around? Probably the only thing, there is 3 types of two-tone boots in that case, right? You have the Armor Energy Shield, I think, you have the Armor Evasion, and you have the Evasion Energy Shield. So for my character, for being a melee character, I would say Armor is a must-have. I don't care about Energy Shield either, so I go with the Armor Evasion, which makes the most sense for me, right? So, I know what boots I want to take, right? And then based on, for your character, I think for an Assassin, if you have a hybrid character, you would probably go like Evasion, Energy Shield, for example. But it's like minor parts, right? Then on the next part, you're gonna check what do you want. So let's just go in here and type here in the type of item that you want to have. Let's say the two-tone boots. So now on the left side, we always have the prefix, and on the right side, we have the suffixes, right? So the thing is, on a normal item, like a magic item, you can have one prefix and one suffix. You know, you cannot have 2 prefix on one magic item. That's the blue one, right? And the rare item can have 3 prefix and 3 suffix. So this is something you have to keep in mind about how many prefixes or affixes you can actually have. So basically on that, I can just pick up like 3 prefix, 3 suffix, or just chaos spam whatever I want, right? But then I need to understand, wait a second. Here you see, what if my boots are Shaper? What prefixes could I get? What suffixes could I get? Then Elder, Crusader, there are all modifiers that are just gonna add into the pool if you want to, right? So if you would have like some Hexa influenced items, these would be the complete mod pool of all prefix and suffix. So the first thing you need to do is to pick out 2 modifiers, if you want to use the Awaken Orb, for example, that you want to have on this item. Must have. You don't want to live without those, right? And I think nowadays, you're probably going to agree, some Tailwind elusive boots might be the best option there. So Tailwind is a modifier, like an action speed modifier, comes from the Hunter modifier, or Hunter influence, and the elusive is the Redeemer part. So what would be your actual crafting be like if it's not Harvest? I would say you're gonna probably alt spam or chaos spam or buying on the market just some Tailwind Hunter boots, right? And then you would do the same or just buy on the market the same thing with elusive boots. So this is a suffix here, and this one is a prefix. And this one is a Hunter item, this one is the Redeemer item. So you would use the Awakener Orb to merge the Tailwind with the elusive, and then hope, because all the other mods will get randomly rerolled, basically. And then you will basically merge these together and then hope for the best. You know, you hope you get some nice movement speed, some life rolls, resistance, whatever you can fix. Because in the end, if we're going to take a rare item, what is basically possible? Let's say prefix, and here we're going to put in the suffix. So we would have the Tailwind over here. Let's just say Tailwind. And we would have one prefix, which is elusive. I think elusive was the prefix out of those 2. Yeah. So that's it. The other stats, whether it's 4 modded item, 6 modded item, like whatever, they're random. This is the actual crafting process that you would go. How does this look like if we take a look at Harvest? And here it is important to understand what is this tag over here. So almost every stat or affix that you can have does have a tag. There are some like increased cooldown recovery speed that doesn't have a tag, right? But here, chance to avoid being shocked is a lightning tag. Chance to avoid being ignited is a fire tag. So now we decided, okay, we want to have Tailwind elusive boots, so that's Hunter and Redeemer. So this is basically all that can roll on these items. So obviously on a Hunter Redeemer we cannot roll any Elder mods, right? But the base mods will always stay the same because it's still the regular boots. So now we check, Tailwind is over here, right? And god damn it, elusive is over here. So we see Tailwind is a speed modifier and a critical modifier. So let's search for speed modifier. We have movement speed, we have Tailwind, and we have chance to gain onslaught. These are three tags over here, three affixes that you can roll if you would do like augment the item with the speed modifier. So let's check the other one, critical. So we type in critical, and you're gonna see there's only two things that have a critical tag. One is Tailwind, and oh, look at this, one is elusive. That would mean if I just augment my boots with a critical modifier, you know, with the Harvest Craft, it's 100% guaranteed to hit Tailwind or elusive, based on how many open prefixes or suffixes do you have, right? That means there is no other possible critical modifier on boots. So instead of risking it all the time to say like, hey, let's just take some Tailwind boots, elusive boots, merge them together with the Awakener Orb, and go from there and hope for the best, basically, you don't need to do that, because you will always be guaranteed Tailwind elusive if you have open prefix, open suffix, and you double augment with a critical modifier. And that changes things heavily. So what would be the new starting here, right? So we want to have Tailwind and elusive boots. That is what our main goal is. So what would be the, I would say, perfect boots? I would say prefix-wise, we go over the list. What is good? Armor, whatever, movement speed. Movement speed is insane. So we're gonna pick here movement speed. What else do we need to have? Life. Life is always good. So then we have mana, we have energy shield, we have hybrid modifiers, but from the base mods here, I don't see any other good thing. And as I said before, you can only have 3 prefix, and if we have life, movement speed, and elusive, our prefixes are full. I would say for boots, this would be the PogChamp combination, right? So let's take a look at suffixes, or at least let's stay on the prefix here, because there is still Hunter prefix, but it's like Chaos Gems, Projectiles, Desecrate Ground, Endurance Charge on Kill, Cold Gems, This is extra cold. I think like in a perfect scenario, I think those are the best. So for suffixes, we have one that I want to have is like Tailwind. And then we go over to the other stats. Let's say Dexterity, Intelligence, Chaos Res. Like Res is always good, right? So we can definitely put in Res over here. And then we have like Bleeding faster, Ignite faster, Poison faster, Chance to dodge. It's questionable, okay? I would say let's go with Res or even double Res. So let's say Fire Res and let's say Cold Res, I would say. So how do we start this project? With knowing that we can critical augment the elusive and the Tailwind, we can basically start with actually chaos spamming or fossil crafting, because the elusive Tailwind is something we can add later on. So it's important to understand that your base needs to be Redeemer and Hunter together. So you can buy the cheapest double influenced or buy any Hunter boots, Awakener Orb them with Redeemer boots, just don't care about, just scour off the result if it's like better. So, and then we basically start here, just gonna keep this one up here, we start actually with some Hunter Redeemer boots. Good would be if you want to perfect fossil 30% or even enchanted or something like that is something you can do. But this is like for min-maxim, more or less, right? So we have actually Hunter Redeemer boots that are like, let's say naked, scoured, whatever you call it. So just white boots. And now we basically can decide. So what are these stats? You know, and how to get those. First of all, important, obviously, the item level. So if I would say I want to have Tailwind, I need item level 75 of my boots. For elusive, I need 75. What about life? You can click on the life and you see all the possible rolls. It's always the highest one listed over here, and that is basically item level 54. So we are safe. Then the next thing would be, let's say movement speed would be 86. So to hit the highest movement speed, which is 35%, is item level 86. So I need to make sure that my item level is 86 or higher, basically. Higher doesn't matter. I think 86 is the maximum. With this one, you can basically unlock all the stats. But now we know we need an item with at least item level 86 to actually be able to hit tier 1 movement speed. So we know what base we want to take, we know what stats we want to have. Now we check the item level, that everything is properly lined up. Now we start the crafting process. So that means we're gonna check now what mod tags do those things have that I want to have, okay? So we already found out that the Tailwind is a crit modifier. The Elusive is a crit modifier, and I think crit and speed is over here on Tailwind. So let's check about movement speed over here. It has only a speed modifier. Then life has obviously a life modifier, or the life tag basically, right? And fire res would have a fire modifier, or at least, what do you say, gem tag, or at least a stat tag, and then you have here cold. So basically always check again, cold, like cold resistance. We have some prefixes, some suffixes. This is something I want to talk later, but just the stats that we want to have. This has a cold tag, this has a fire, this has a crit speed, this only crit life and speed. So that means everything that has a tag can be modified with harvest crafting. Remember, remove a fire modifier, remove a speed modifier, add a physical modifier. These are all tags. There is only a few tags that are not able to get, which is mana, for example, or gems, for example. So elemental would be one. So I mean, cold, fire, resistance, or lightning are elemental, but there is something like avoid elemental ailments is an elemental modifier, but there are no seeds for elemental, for example, right? So it's always in first, as I said, you go over the step by step. You're gonna like draw out your perfect boots, and then you check what stats do you have. And if there is something, let's say you want to have increased strength that has no gem tag, means you cannot add that with harvest. This would be the stat that you start your base with like alt spamming or chaos spamming until you hit that stat. So let's see, we said crit is easy. We just augment crit, this is 100% stat. Speed modifier is shared with movement speed. But if I would augment, the speed, I could either get tailwind or I could get movement speed, if those two are the only speed modifiers. And we have onslaught on kill. So these are 3 chances that I have, or 1 out of 3 basically, based on the weighting and stuff. If I augment the speed modifier, that I actually hit my tailwind. Other than crit, if I would just search for crit once again, we only have, if I have 1 open suffix and an augment crit, 100% guaranteed to hit tailwind. If a prefix is open, 100% guaranteed for elusive. That means if I would have just white boots, and I'd just be like, you know what, whatever, just double augment crit, these boots would be blue with elusive tailwind, you know, it's a 100% chance. So this is something I can easily add. Then the next thing, fire res, cold res, what about that? If I say fire, I see that there is ignites faster and fire res. These are the only 2 suffixes with the fire modifier. If we say cold, we have only cold resistance. If it would say lightning, there is only lightning resistance. So technically, I could also say we're gonna do lightning res over here, just because it's 100% guaranteed on this one. Fire would have 2 outcomes. So basically, this is easy to add, this is easy to add, this is easy to add, elusive is easy, life is easy, movement speed, everything can be added. So now I need to check what is the most expensive and what is the most rarest. So augment augment cold or remove add cold is pretty common. Same with lightning. Speed is rare. So I've been farming my harvest for like 2 or 3 weeks now, and I have like 1 augment speed or something, so it's super rare. So crit is also rare, but it's still 100% guaranteed. Life is super common. So that means that my base that I want to start crafting should be movement speed. That's for me, right? Because I know this is the most expensive seed or the rarest seed, so that's why I start crafting with that one. And I did it even further. I said, since I don't want to have double resistance, I actually want to have an abyss socket, you know? 1 abyss socket. This would basically be only available through the fossil crafting. And as I said before, if you want to have Tailwind Elusive boots, you don't need to Awaken Orb these together because these are 100% mods. So the base that we're going to prepare can have anything Chaos Spammed Fossil crafted. So what I did is basically, I started with a 3-socket Resonator with 1 Hollow Fossil that adds the +1 Abyss. Then I was going 1 Shuddering, that is a speed modifier. And then I think 1 Pristine for life modifier or something. You can only go Shuddering or Hollow, whatever you want to do with those, right? And then I used like 3 or 4, like the Abyss socket will always be there, and the Abyss socket is counted as a suffix, okay? And then Hollow Fossil, as I said, Abyss, then the Shuddering Fossil to hit the movement speed. So it took me 3 Resonators to hit tier 1 movement speed with the Fossil, right? And luckily for me, I had actually the tier 1 lightning resistance on that too, but this is easily changeable. So basically, if we go back, what is the current outcome? We actually just have the boots with enchant, with like corrected item level and so on. They're Hunter and Redeemer influenced. So we start with the Resonator craft. So again, we have 3 prefix and we have 3 suffix. So now the outcome is basically you will always have 1 Abyss socket, that's for sure. Then you want to spam those fossils to get tier 1 movement speed, which is 35% basically. And then it will probably have, let's say, let's make it actually better. Then it has like life regen on it. Regen. And what else are we gonna add? I don't know, like armor, evasion, okay? This would be an obvious outcome if you would use that one, right? We have a life modifier, we have shudder, we have the speed modifier and abyss socket. So let's assume we just do that and we get exactly this one. How do you keep on going with that? Because armor evasion is something we don't want. Life regen, what the hell? So the next thing is to understand, can I clean those? With Harvestcraft, like normally you would say like, okay, you know what, we have to use annuals, you know, but this way, what is life regen? So if you go over here, I don't even know if life regen is on the boot, on the boots. Yeah, regen life. This is a life modifier. So we go over here. As I said, this we said is speed. That one is a defense modifier. Then we have the abyss socket. That's like a fossil that doesn't have attack. And then we have here another life modifier. So I know that life regen is a life modifier, and we know that the armor evasion over here is a defense modifier. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is go to my harvest and check, do I have remove defense modifier or remove life modifier, or in the best scenario, both, right? And it's going to be 100%. If you have remove life modifier, this one will be gone. Remove defense modifier, this is gone. So we have our bare boots, they are rare, they have tier 1 movement speed, and they have an abyss socket, right? So now the next thing, what you can do is think about what is the next step that I want to do. Basically, I would say probably augment crit, you know, because Tailwind is 100% guaranteed, as we said before, and elusive is 100% guaranteed. So I would say we're just gonna, like, there is some sites where you can, like, or discords where you can buy augment crit. And I would say they're like 2 exalts worth of something if you don't find them yourself or nobody on your friend list has it. But usually they go for about 2 exalts. So you would buy 2 of those, and don't, if you say like, oh my god, who has 2 exalts for an augment crit, you know? We're crafting here mirror tier boots for about maybe 10 or 15 chaos exalted orbs, so that's like super cheap for the actual outcome. So we just say like we found the add crit on our seats, I think it's tier 2 seat or something, or even bought it, and we're gonna double slam. So we're just gonna do 2 times augment crit modifier. And since we know critical is the only elusive tailwind, and we augment those, so here we're gonna get elusive on top of that. And on the second one, it cannot get elusive because it's already there, so we're gonna get tailwind. So now with 2 times augment, we have tier 1 movement speed, elusive, an abyss socket, tailwind, and now it's only missing is basically from our dream boots would be life and 1 resistance that I can choose, right? So what about life? If I go life over here, we have suffixes with life and we have prefixes with life. So I can actually, don't forget, we are currently sitting on boots that have 2 prefix, 2 suffix. So If I want to get life as a prefix guaranteed, we need to craft a suffix. So basically anything, it can be life, it can be, basically you want to have something that you cannot overrule with like remove add life, okay? So I would say let's craft, let's say cold resistance, right? We craft cold resistance means our suffixes are full, but we have one open prefix, and then we would go with augment life. If we augment life, we will have either hybrid life, we will get ES life, or we get the actual life roll, right? So we augment life, and let's say we hit energy shield life, which is basically a defense and a life tag attached to that one, because energy shield is a defense modifier. But now you're not screwed, you know? The next thing you do is just permanently remove add life. These are the seeds where I have like remove a random life modifier and add a life modifier. So if we check again, we have a speed modifier, we have a crit modifier, we have a crit, a non-modifier, a crit modifier, a cold modifier. So the only thing that we can remove is this one over here. So you continuously keep spamming remove add life until you hit your tier 1 life roll that you want to have. And then in the end, we have one crafted stat. You can either leave it as it is and say like, you know what, I want to have an open suffix based that I can, like when I find a new helmet, I equip it, and then I have too many cold resistance, I want lightning resistance, so you can just manually switch the craft. Or you're going to say, you know what, at the end, we're going to remove the crafted modifier. So we basically get rid of the craft, and then we check again, we have only one suffix, let's say cold resistance. We have prefixes with cold and only one suffix that is cold resistance. So prefixes are full. We already have life, elusive, movement speed. So the only thing that can roll is cold resistance. So we're gonna go with the next step, which is obviously augment cold. And then we're gonna hit 100% cold res. And if you have like a low tier, let's say 7% or something, where because you're unlucky, you just keep on going with the remove add cold modifier until you have a tier where you said like where you say that's it, you know. And if we consider all of that together with like double augment buy, I think I bought like 2.5 exalts per piece. So I found a guy that had 2 augment crits. It was like 5 exalts. Then you can say the enchantment I did with the enchanted fossils, basically, because I'm always too lazy to run labs. Then the 30% quality, then the awakener orb. I would say I paid roughly 10 to 15 exalts for those boots, and the rest I did myself with harvest crafting, with understanding the system, what is a gem tag, how can I make sure that certain mods will roll guaranteed while blocking a prefix or blocking a suffix, for example, with a craft, so it will always hit the one that I want to do. And basically I have boots here, 6 times tier 1, perfectly roll, divine, whatever, and I spend about 15 exalts, and these boots are top notch. I don't think you can do anything better, you know. These boots are kind of insane. They are definitely made for walking. And as you saw, it's not even hard. You just need time and patience and understand how this works. And this applies to everything else. So now, since we went over the boots, for example, like really in depth, how was the crafting process, what do I want to do, and so on, we're going to take a look at some of the other items that I did, but I'm not going too depth into that. For example, my astral plate. So what I did with my astral plate, I wanted to have my dream astral plate would be, I would say, life. Then we have, for example, Explomod and +1 curse. You know, this is the chest basically that I wanted to have, because I want to run a vulnerability ring and I want to run an assassin's mark ring. So I need +1 curse, and the expo modifier obviously is super good. So if you go here, astral plate, I don't know, body armor's astral plate. So how do I get to that? We know that the explo is a crusader modifier, and the +1 curse I think can be an elder too. Let me quickly check. No, so it is a hunter modifier. This is actually better anyways. So I know that we have a Crusader and Hunter to get those. So this is the mod pool that I can choose of. So as again, we have 3 prefix and we also have 3 suffix. So let's check. The Explo mod is a prefix. The Hunter modifier, the additional curse, is also a prefix. So this is what we are currently on here, right? So what would be the next best thing. So as I said, if we make the prefixes full because there is only one left, I would say based out of that, I think life should be on every single item if you play life builds or energy shield and so on. So our prefixes are full. What about our suffixes? We have a Crusader Hunter item that can have 3 suffixes. If I go over the list, so resistance, obviously always a nice choice to go for resistance. The other things here, strength, attributes, physical damage reduction, not really. What about Crusader? Power charge on crit. Sounds pretty cool, because this is something, it's not on kill, it's something that you can use for Cyrus as well. This will actually be sustainable on Cyrus. So I would say power charge on crit makes sense. What else do we have? Increased energy shield recovery rate, doesn't matter. Intelligence, doesn't matter. Recovery, no. Effective offerings, attack, base crit. Obviously, we play a physical build here with critical strike, so base crit will be insane. So we have base crit over here. So we have an explode chest with +1 curse, a power charge and crit, base crit, a resistance, and life modifier. This chest in any other league almost uncraftable. Unless you get like super lucky, that's over a mirror tier. That's like insane. In this league, it's probably worth 10 exalts maybe. And you know why? Because it's actually super easy to craft. So this is exactly the chest that I built over here. We have life, we have power charge, we have additional curse, we have base crit, and we have explo and 1 crafted life resistance modifier. So what will be the crafting process? Yet again, we know that Crusader has a physical tag. What about the additional curse? Does not have a tag, so we write this down. We have the life modifier that has a life tag, the explo has a physical, the +1 curse doesn't have a tag, the power charge and crit does have a crit tag, the base crit has, what is it, Elder Hunter? The base crit has an attack and a critical modifier. And resistance, obviously, fire, cold, lightning, whatever you're gonna pick in the end, right? So, we always start with something that doesn't have a tag, because we cannot remove something that doesn't have a tag, right? So, +1 curse is necessary, and I would say, since we have to awaken orb this together, since it's a Crusader and Hunter chest, we're gonna choose curse and explo. So, now this is something I hear on my stream 24/7. Why don't you use Harvest crafting to get the explo modifier? Why don't you use jacked fossils? Why don't you do this? Why do that? I always go with alteration spam. The reason for that is imprints. So every time I'm going for something like this, I always make an imprint of a magic item. So I have like, I don't know, like so many items here. Elrion's Steel Ring was the Elrion's Steel Ring. I mean, it's kind of obvious. That's the minus mana cost. This is a stat that only exists on the Elrion mod. This is something you cannot roll. It's from a divination card, right? So that means I want to save that. What is this? Crusader's Astral Plate. I know this is an explode chest. Here I have another explode chest. Here we had, I think that was the physical damage over time multiplier. So I make imprints with beast crafting. So you need the Krashik Chimeral here. You add those, and then you get in your bestiary crafting, you get make an imprint. But this will only work on magic items. So the first thing I do is taking the chest, yet again, check what item level do I need and stuff like that. And then I start alt spamming for the explo modifier, because then I can always go back if I ruin something. So let's assume we got the explo. Alt spam takes about, can be 1,000 alterations, can be 5,000 if you're unlucky, but I think like the average is like 2,000 or 3,000 alterations, so definitely spammable, right? So like 3x or so. Then we're gonna buy a chest that has +1 curse, no other hunter modifiers, and then we're gonna use the Awakener Orb. So we go back here again, we use explo, Awakener Orb with the +1 curse. So our outcome would be prefix, suffix. Here we're gonna have the explo and the additional curse, because both of those are prefixes. And I guess we're gonna have like, let's say cold res and again life regen, for example. This is the outcome of our explo chest. So why do I still make an imprint if it's so easy to clean, right? So what if you get intelligence as your suffix, for example? You cannot harvest craft intelligence. In this version, it's kind of easy. As long as we have open suffix or prefix, you can, based on that, you can craft prefixes cannot be changed. You can scour off. Those are then gone and you're safe, you know. Or if you don't want to spend those 2x, then you have to annul. And if you would annul off the curse or the explo, you can always take the imprint, move it to the item, and you are back, and then you just buy another Awaken Orb. It's just always, I always spend the 70, 80 chaos, whatever the imprint piece costs, to make a copy of an item here. Good. Next thing is, so we have that, and we removed those, let's say prefixes cannot be changed, scour off. This is my current chest. So now I know I need life, I need power charge and crit, I need base crit, I need resistance. How can we do that? Basically, you check again. Let's say we start with a critical modifier. So we get in here crit. What can roll? There is no prefix that has a crit modifier, but there are power charge and crit, we have attack base crit, and we have spell crit. So it's a chance 1 out of 3 to hit it, right? Other than the base crit, this is attack and crit. So let's check what attack modifiers are there. And you're gonna see attacks, reflect. No, wait, this is actually a physical modifier. It's just in the name here. But that means the only thing that can roll if you augment an attack modifier on this chest is the explo. So we start with that. We're gonna say augment attack modifier. And we're gonna get 100% our base crit. Now the next thing, this is a little bit scary because now we say critical modifier, right? So crit. We still have 3 options: base crit, spell crit, and power charge. And we want to have power charge. So how do we do that? So we blocked already. Since we augmented the attack mod first, I was able to get the base crit. So this falls off the table. I cannot augment something that is on the chest already. So it is a 50-50 remove at augment crit, either the power charge or the spell crit. Worst case scenario, we hit spell crit. What do we do then? On the next thing is, what is the spell crit? It's a caster modifier. Okay, let's search for caster modifier. It's the only caster modifier. So instead of going with remove at critical modifier and hope that we hit the spell crit, we can just say, you know what? Remove caster modifier. And it's 100% guaranteed that spell crit is gone, and then you augment the crit again, because the power charge and crit is only a crit modifier. So basically we do this again and we hit our power charge on crit. And if you say, oh my god, I only have low base crit, remove at attack and just re-roll the base crit until you hit the tier 1, right? So we are left alone with explo, we have curse, we have base crit, we have power charge. So next thing I want to have is resistance and life. So if we're gonna check again, what are the life modifiers, for example? Life, we see we have prefixes on life, we have suffixes on life. How do we do that? Best thing is to block one of those. And the same with resistance. So what I did is then basically craft life, for example. Because then I know, basically that's a prefix here, we craft life, but we block our prefixes. So if I augment then for resistance, let's say cold resistance, it is only cold resistance, so I can just easily augment cold and we're gonna get our cold resistance. Then we can remove at cold, for example, to reroll the tiers until we hit the tier 1. And in the end, we can remove the crafted life and then we say augment life and then do, permanently reroll the augment life until you hit the tier 1. So basically it's just about a farming process, and I'm in the middle here. We have everything settled down. I just need to reroll random add life to hit the tier 1, and then in the end, once my gear is like finished up, I'm gonna decide what of the resistance am I lacking, and then I'm gonna add those. Another crafting project here is, for example, the Eldraine modifier with crit multi, fist damage, something like that. Here I only need to reroll life, for example. We have tier 1 attacks, we have multiplier, we have assassin's mark, we have tier 1 res. The only thing that's missing is life. And this is basically the same ring that I want to do here. Instead of the crafted -9 mana cost, I want to have the Eldraine modifier. I'm currently remove at fizz until I hit the tier 1. Then I will say prefixes cannot be changed, augment an attack modifier to get vulnerability going. Then I'm going to go for a life craft and then a resistance or something like that. So basically the opportunities that you have in this league are almost endless. The only thing you need to make sure, item level base, the gem tags, what are stats you can easily add, and what are stats that you can hardly add or what you cannot add. So you need to always make sure to start with the item or with the mods that you cannot roll, you know, with Harvest. And then you try to add the harder mods first, because a resistance on an item, for example, or anything else is like super easy. That's always for the last step, basically, to finish up the items. That's why that one doesn't have resistance yet, for example. Here is only like craft resistance because I want to finish my prefixes first. On the amulet, I'm also like finishing the accuracy at the moment and the physical damage. So as I said, I just ask you, if you want to get into crafting, basically, use that. Write down what is your perfect dream item and start to work towards it, rather than just going pure trade and just buy something completely overpriced. Because if you see those boots for 50x, you say like, holy shit, that's the best price. But if you know how to make those, and you know that I only spent like 50 exalts to create those, why should you pay 50 exalts for those if you know they are just worth like probably 20 or 25x based on the work that I put into that? So hopefully that gives you some overview on how to, I would say, abuse. I don't like to say that word, but it's just 100% guaranteed to create certain items. It's just a matter of time and luck until you hit the certain tier. But you can save annual items, you can save items in general, and you can make the craziest items even crazier than we had in the past. Probably items that you could only find on mirror tier services with like 100 exalts because they were so goddamn hard to make. And I don't know if a chest like this ever existed before. And if so, yeah, then the guy was like super crazy. Alright guys, keep that in mind and good luck crafting your future projects. And yeah, hopefully you have fun or could help you a little bit with that. Thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you on the next video.